Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow. We've all been standing by, waiting for our first look at Tianas Bayou Adventure. Everybody wants to know, how does this compare? Will it compare with Splash Mountain? We've seen very little so far. We've only seen a couple of still photos from inside, and then obviously the exteriors of the attraction. Media previews are coming up on June 9th. Disney has said, we're not going to wait that long. In part of their We Call It Imagineering series on YouTube, which is a fantastic show. I highly recommend anybody who is a fan of the parks to look in on this show. The last episode, the first episode, was great. This one too is focused on music, but at the end of the episode, we get to go on a ride through with two Disney cast members. Well, PJ Morton, who's the writer of the new song, played at the finale, and Trisha Holloway, a music executive with Disney. They go on a ride, and we get to go with them. Now, we're not getting, it's not like a POV, so we're not getting the whole shot, we're not getting the whole ride, but it's their sort of sly way of showing us what this attraction is going to look like, and we can learn a lot. So what we're going to do today is examine all of the visible scenes that are available to us in this We Call It Imagineering episode. We're going to compare it to what we know of Splash Mountain, of Magic Kingdom's version of Splash Mountain, as well as incorporate some thoughts from ours as well. Let's get into it. So there's a hard segue from this Haunted Mansion scene here into this first clip, and we're going to pause it right away. We'll just get into the commentary, I guess, because I don't know how else to do this, but I don't understand this sign. I really don't understand this sign. It feels forced and unnecessary, and I don't know, man. It doesn't have any sort of energy to it. I mean, I don't feel like you need the sign. The attraction isn't better served by having this there. It's almost as if they're trying to convince us. They're trying to convince us that this place is now Tiana's Foods and not Splash Mountain. But I feel like if you're gonna put a sign in there, I mean, make it a great sign. Make it something that actually fits in this environment. I'm not getting that vibe here. This is just getting I don't know, high school play vibes is what it's giving me. So I'm not an auspicious beginning, in my opinion, to what we're seeing so far from this little ride through. And there again is PJ Morton and Trisha Holloway setting us up for this ride through. And by the way, let's look at this queue. What we can tell so far, this kind of will get unnoticed, but there are some details to note here. There's a bunch of crates hanging above and over the loading area. This is Tiana's Foods it's a warehouse. It's a place where they sell and distribute Tiana's Foods. So those crates are supposed to be a fairly common occurrence in the queue leading up to this area. So expect to see more of that, more warehousey type elements. Also, you'll notice compared to Splash Mountain, it looks like they have muted the color schemes. There was a green building and a red building in the old Splash Mountain. It looks like this is all just shades of brown and yellow. Not saying that that's good or bad, but it's different. That's something that they've changed. And I know yellow is a color they use at the entrance as well. So just something worth observing here. There again, you can see the crates hanging above the loading area, and there's more yellow. That's the same color, same style of paint texture exterior as what we've seen, from the exterior of the attraction, the opening, the entrance to the queue. All right, this is the first lift hill. You've made that right turn coming out of the loading area. This is the first lift hill, very similar to the way ours is set up. And at the crest of this hill, the view that you're getting now is of the Tiana's Foods water tower, and then those new trees, those swampy trees that we've been watching them build at our location as well. This compares to almost completely clear sky as you come over the crest of that hill. I mean, I like that. I feel like that's better. It's more interesting to look at. It's we got to call it as we see it, right? And that does look better than an empty sky, I guess. Now, what we're getting here is looking back. This is an angle we're never going to get on any kind of ride through unless we're turned around, which is they won't let you do that, obviously. So we're going to get to see things differently. But I very much like the foliage that's showing up here. It's very lush, very green and bright. I enjoy that quite a bit. But I've always enjoyed what they've done to the mountain as opposed to having just that plain, brick red, brick orange scheme to the old Splash Mountain. I like this. Obviously, we're not going to get to see that when we're riding through. Okay, so they've come around the edge, they've come around the bend. They're about ready to go up that first lift hill with the barn, and you can see those 2 trees right there. We have those same 2 trees at our location. I don't know what the deal is with this sign on the right with the vegetables, the onion and the tomato. Again, that feels kind of forced. It feels kind of unnecessary, unless they're trying to obscure something, perhaps. I don't know. I don't know why that's there, to be honest. Okay, so we're now ascending the first lift hill. And what you'll notice here is that this is the first indication that we have of them doing sort of an extensive change to the visual elements. Not a lot was happening in this lift hill in either location, either at Magic Kingdom or in ours. Very sort of plain, drab, not much, just tools. It just looked like a barn. It just looked like the inside of a barn. This has a little more color. They put in the green textures there and made it seem more like a warehouse, as we'll see in a minute. When we turn around, it looks more like a warehouse. There's that on the left, the side where there's our first Tiana animatronic, by the way. But that looks, as we get closer to Tiana, and there again you can see, look at the boxes there and the stuff on it's out of frame a little bit now, coming into frame on the right. Looks like more food jars of something. And then there's Tiana. We only get to see her for a second, but the second that we do get, it looks nice. It looks like a very good animatronic. So that's the first animatronic that we've seen so far. We have now come out of the lift hill, and we made that right turn. If you're at Splash Mountain at Disneyland, and you're coming around the bend, and again, this is a view that we're not going to get to see, but that looks nice. Okay. All right, so we fast forward. This is this scene. They've jumped forward to the very first scene you get after you finish going over Slip and Falls. We have a Slip and Falls. They have a Slip and Falls, and then as you at the end of that stretch of track, you start entering the dark ride portion of the attraction. This is really interesting. Because there's a side-by-side. This is the first case where somebody posted side-by-side photos of these on social the other night. And when I first saw those, I'm like, oh, well, that's, the blue, it looks interesting. I like that. That's they've really done something there. I thought the blue trees were the new scene, and that this scene was the old scene, but it's actually literally quite the opposite. Now, some would rush and say, oh, well, that means it's worse. It's a downgrade. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I don't know which is better, but just for whatever reason, this image looked like the original image, the old image, and the other one looked more like what would be a new image. I don't know how else to explain it other than to say that it looks like that's something that Disney would have done. If the old Splash Mountain looked like that, then Disney would have said, let's do this. Let's do the blue thing. But we've got the blue thing, so Disney said, okay, let's do this. Does that make sense? I don't know which one's better. I guess that's what I'm saying. I don't have a vote. I don't have an opinion on which looks better. One thing that you will also notice is that there's no rock wall on that left. They've replaced that with some bushes and some shrubbery, some reeds, and some flowers. And again, I don't know if that's better or worse. It's a toss-up. By the way, note that this appearance is very different from ours. The way that this whole situation looks, both the before and afters, there's significantly more light in this. There's more going on, and there's more light in the Magic Kingdom version of Splash than there was in ours. We travel, when we go into that first dark ride portion, we're in almost total darkness. There's just light on the characters and little else. So we don't get anywhere near this much information that we're getting in this image and that we're getting at Magic Kingdom. Now, that's one thing I hope they do change, because I always felt like our Splash was too dark. I like more light than less in general. Lighting is key. Lighting is fundamental. Uh, Music and lighting are fundamental to dark rides, in my opinion, and you got to get that right. You have to get that right. Now, it looks like, as we push forward just a little bit in this video, that they've removed some animatronics. We've seen or heard rumors or reports of there being fewer animatronics in this attraction. I assume that that's the case. This is an example of one where we have no animatronics where there used to be. Whether or not that's relevant or important, again, I can't say. It's kind of like, is more necessarily better? I don't know. Honestly, I can't say if that's true or not. But in this case, that is a place right there. It just looks emptier here than it does in the original version, obviously because there's less going on in that scene. There's our second Tiana animatronic. She looks great. Again, very smooth and realistic. I feel like she rivals the new Belle animatronic and the new Frozen animatronics that we've seen in the recent past. I'm not positive where this is in the original attraction, but I'm going to assume it's here. I really like the way this looks, but I know that there's going to be comments about how it looks compared to what that other scene looks like. We do get, it doesn't look like much. It looks like they've really scaled things down a little bit in that picture compared to where I assume it is in Splash Mountain. When we get this reverse view again, you can see that they didn't show us. They skipped a whole section there. Back in the distance, right over his hat, you can see that there's a whole band playing back there. I think that's the new Critter Band. Has to be, right? So there's a lot more going on here than that first shot would let us believe. In fact, that scene that we just showed that was in the rear is now showing, I think this is the same scene. I'm getting the same vibe from both of those scenes. And again, they're not they're going out of their way to not show us directly any of the stuff. The camera is focused on PJ, on the the music director, and not on the actual ride. But we're gonna make use of it. I feel like that's the same scene. I don't know if they're doing it twice. It could be. Well, I'm not sure because when we're looking at it in reverse, it's on stage right, but here obviously it's on stage left. So I'm not sure if this is. I'm not sure if my bearings are correct or not, or maybe there's two instances. It wouldn't surprise me if there were two instances of that band playing. But that's the Zydeco band, I'm almost positive, which I'm really looking forward to hearing that music. Okay. I have been trying to process this scene. I'm just going to keep letting it play. I've been trying to process this scene. The shot, look at that. God, it does not look like Rainbow Road from Mario Kart. It's a tunnel, right? We've leveled out. So we've just landed on whatever that drop is, and then we go through this psychedelic tunnel that they have concocted here. I have to think this is the second laughing place drop at Magic Kingdom, and that actually fits in sequentially. So the way that looked, it looks every bit to me like they've created a cylindrical case around that part of the track. If this is the laughing place drop, I like this. I like that a lot. It's certainly better. We're in total darkness at ours, and I like this a lot. I mean, you could make that argument that they're just trying stuff. They're like, okay, this was dark here before, so let's put scene where there wasn't any. That's common. They did that at Snow White, where they, in areas where there was darkness, they tried to put more show there. Which I don't blame them because they're doing an update, so they got to do something, right? So you could say, do we really need this? I for one, I'm glad that they did, even if it's not great, that they at least tried. I mean, I appreciate them trying to make the ride different, updated, new-ish. Is it necessary? Is it fun? I don't know if it's necessary, but it is fun. It's kind of trippy. But we only got a few seconds here, so it's hard to get the real effect. But what this does tells me is that they did take efforts to make this more than just a simple reskin, that they're trying to make something else out of this attraction, for better or worse. And then that looks like very much like the laughing place that we've all seen. We're actually, I think we've been shrunk down at that point. And that takes us to the finale. And this is going to probably be the area of the most debate for fans of Splash Mountain, mostly because of the music. But as we arrive here, all I can say is I like the way this looks. Where before it was the steamboat and all the critters singing zippity-doo-dah, today we're at Tiana's place on the river. They don't show us much, just like before when we passed by the critter band. They're not letting the camera put any scene really in full frame. But again, I have to say I really like this. I like the colors. Again, I feel like these colors are superior to the colors of Splash Mountain. I like the lighting. The lighting in this room specifically is fantastic. It's definitely better than the lighting in the Splash Mountain scene. Not to say that I don't like the old Splash Mountain scene. I like that very much. But I like this also. And this is actually a good spot to, this is a good example of a point that I've been trying to make for the past year. It seems like, where, you know, a lot of people want to feel about this attraction as either total victory or total fail. And if it's not Splash Mountain, then it's going to suck. That there's no chance that Disney could make something that is also good. Splash Mountain is good. I've been saying, yes, I agree. But so too could be Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Now, I say this from, it's easier for me to say this, I think, because I don't hold this attraction as reverently as others do. People younger than me feel differently about Splash Mountain than people my age, I think. You know, how you feel about these things all depends on your entry point into your experiences at Disneyland. And so I'm more reverent of the old stuff. I'm more reverent of Space Mountain, of Autopia. Not that I was around in the 50s or anything like that, but that's my, you know, when I was a kid, I was riding Autopia and going on Space Mountain, things like that. So I feel differently about those attractions. I find Autopia to be much more sacred than Splash Mountain. It doesn't bother me that they updated Splash Mountain. Politics aside, it didn't affect me at all. But others, like my wife, for example, she got kind of emotional about it. She really loves Splash Mountain. But the point I'm trying to make, I guess, is that in spite of that, it's still possible that Splash Mountain could be great, and Tiana's Bayou Adventure could also be great. The riverboat scene and Zippity-Doo-Dah could be great. This could also be great. It's possible even greater. We don't know. We shouldn't assume that this is an example of, I think this looks better. This is better than the Mark Twain scene. Now, the only part we don't know about this is the music. And that's a huge part of it, obviously. Zippity-Doo-Dah is a classic song. I love that song. It makes me feel happy. And I miss the fact that it's not playing at Rope Drop anymore. So I don't know how I'm going to feel about an unknown song. That's where people are going to lose their minds a little bit, I think, is they haven't heard. This is where they're going to play the new song. I think it's called Secret Spice. They're going to play that song here. I mean, I feel like it's over before it started in terms of people's response. How do you compete? How do you take a new song that has no history, we have no cultural or historical attachment to it, you know, we have no emotion attached to it, and have that compete against Zippity-Doo-Dah? I feel like maybe they had to do that because there isn't really a single. Is there a single song in Princess and the Frog that can compete with Zippity-Doo-Dah? I don't know. Maybe that's why they had to create a new song. I want to see more. I want to see more of this scene that down the barrel, center frame, you know, getting a good look at this. But I like what I see in this. I like the balance of colors, the setting, the lighting. Again, look up and see. There's more lovely lighting and color where before it was just simple foliage. The overall presentation feels more detailed and more finished. This looks better, higher quality. But again, a lot will have to do with Secret Spice and how people can accept that song as, a replacement for Zippity Doo Dah. I'm hoping I can be objective and fair. Because like I said, I'm not going to argue. Zippity Doo Dah's great. It's a great song, man. It's a great song, and I don't want to get into anything in terms of politics or anything like that because we're here. This happened. It's happened. So we just have to get over that. Or at least that's what I'm gonna do is get over it, and I'm going to evaluate this attraction as it is and try to enjoy it as it is. And I like the way it looks. I have to say, I do like the way it looks for the most part. There are some questions. I have questions, and we haven't seen the whole thing yet. They obviously didn't want to show us everything. They're suggesting things, but I feel like what they did show us looks nice. It looks good. That's it. That's all we got. I think the rest of the clips are, unless that's the extension. This has to be they've gone back. There's Lewis again, Tiana, the Critters, and then we saw the Zydeco band on the left. Yeah, they're going back. Oh, there's Mama Odie. How did I miss this before? I thought when they got to the end at Tiana's place, that it was over. Mama Odie has her own little scene. I like the way that looks too. The Mama Odie scene looks really, really nice. Okay, so now they've arrived back at the station. Can't wait to hear it. I can't wait for the calm and patient and deliberate discourse over these changes in the comments and on social media. I am sure that everybody's going to be very open-minded and level-headed about all of this. I am sure that the conversation will be full of polite discourse. Let's go. Let's hear it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney, that's Fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. If you like our show and want to show your support, you can join us or follow or contribute on Patreon at patreon.com/FreshBaked. Otherwise, thanks for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Fresh Baked.